All right, folks, Darrell Curtis here. Hello, everybody. Darrell Curtis. Morning. Back already. Beautiful, sunshiny morning. Caught the sunrise. Well, good morning, everybody. Beautiful, sunshiny morning. Hello, everyone. I'm Darrell Curtis. Police officer, businessman, master meat cutter, proud father, BushCat pilot. This is my story. Okay, everyone, I'm Darrell Curtis, and I've lived here in Verona my entire life. As a child, I have a very vivid memory of my dad, Richard Curtis, who was also a pilot, taking me up to his Uncle Paul's. And Uncle Paul was a pilot as well, and he had actually an amphibious airplane on floats. And as a child, I can remember going up there and my dad as a little kid lifting me up into the seat of that airplane and letting me hang on to the controls, and it was almost magical for me at the time. And then you got to fast forward to me being in grade school and us going on a field trip to the then Oneida County Airport. And at the end of the field trip, we were all standing there as little kids with our fingers in the page wire fence watching an Allegheny Convair take off. And they had the big round engines on them back then, and I still have a vivid memory of that airplane going down to the end of the runway, and it was so loud. Of course, these days I enjoy taking passengers of my own in my BushCat, and there's never a shortage of eager folks to go for a ride. So while I enjoy taking passengers in my BushCat, sometimes I even throw them out at altitude. Melanie, my daughter, grew up around airplanes and has gone on to make skydiving her profession. She says she enjoys flying with me, but I think she might have an issue with my landings.
love you, Dad. Oh my God. Amazing. Amazing. Oh my God, I'm so stoked.
But I got to back up for just a minute. Back in 1972, now I was, 16, 17 years old in 72. And we ended up, I was driving by Pastor Bates's field, and there was a guy flying a Vagabond there. It was one of our meat cutting customers. And I stopped and jumped out of the airplane, or jumped out of the car and was watching the airplane. And to my delight, he taxied up and said, "Hey, jump in." And that was actually my first ride in a real airplane. So in 1964, my mom and dad moved over to the farm here at the end of Tusher Road. And we ended up sitting around watching the Wide World of Sports on television back in 1976, a friend of mine and I. And they were having the air races. And I ended up saying to my friend, "You know, I've always wanted to own an airplane." He said, "Me too." He said, "Let's go buy one." So long story short, we went over to Beck's Grove. There was an old Tailorcraft sitting there. And we ended up making a deal and buying that airplane. I owned a lot of airplanes through the years, and as years went on, I got to the point where I wanted to buy a brand new airplane. And my vivid memory of that Vagabond being 18 feet long and 31 feet wide, fabric covered tail dragger, stuck with me all those years. And I kept shopping for a new airplane, and I distinctly remember walking up to the BushCat at Sun and Fun and asking Daniela if I could just sit in it. And at the time, my knees were bad and need of replacement, and I distinctly remember backing up to that airplane and sitting in it and swinging my legs in and thinking to myself, you know, this is the one. And after a little horse trading, we ended up cutting a deal, and I've been flying the BushCat ever since. And no buyer's remorse here. I would buy this airplane again in a minute. We were in Lakeland, Florida, and part of the deal was for them to deliver that airplane to NY 62. And they had to go back to Wisconsin anyway, so it was just a short hop for them to do that. They agreed, and at the end of the show, they kept the airplane the rest of the show. And at the end of the show, they ended up disassembling it, packing it in the trailer, and sometime later showed up in the driveway. And we spent the better part of the weekend putting the airplane back together, and Jeremy did some fantastic work on that, and Daniela was there to mark everything with the Torque Marks marker to make sure we had everything done. Looked the airplane all over, and was ready to test fly. And so Jeremy and I jumped in it, and he took me around the patch, and we came back and landed safe and sound, and went over to the recovery, and we treated everybody to dinner, and Jeremy and Daniela went back to Wisconsin, and there I was with a brand new BushCat. 14 hours it had on it when we ended up taking delivery of it. And so that brings me to, I hadn't flown in 4 years. So I had the vivid memory of those hours I spent in that old Tailorcraft, taxiing up and down the runway, getting so I could handle it. So that's exactly what I did with the BushCat. I went down and I started taxiing up and down the runway until I got to where I could handle it good. And the BushCat handles great on the ground. It's very well mannered. And of course, I have hundreds of hours of tail dragger time. I just was rusty. So I ended up teaching myself to fly again with Bob Moore, God rest his soul, as my co-pilot. And ended up going and seeing Luigi Bettini, our local flight instructor, for a biennial flight review. And we were off again. I've been flying this airplane ever since. And like I told you, I'm 6'4", 325 pounds, and I have yet to land anywhere that it didn't take me back out of. If you watch my stuff on YouTube, you'll see me land in the plowed ground in the cornfield. BushCat just handles it fantastic. I put a set of 26-inch Airstreak tires on it, and of course it's a tail dragger, so you can do the off-airport work with it. And very honestly, I use the BushCat almost exclusively for off-airport operations here in the central New York area. I have flew cross country with it. I mean, it'll cruise at 100 miles an hour, no problem at all, burning 4.5 gallons of gas. It's just a joy. It's just a joy to have around. You want to go flying, you hop in it and off you go. It doesn't cost you a fortune to do that. And the reliability has been amazing. I just am so happy with the BushCat, you can't believe it.